Welcome back to How to Be a Better DM, the official podcast of Monsters.rent. I'm Justin Lewis.
And I'm Tanner Weyland.
And we are here to help you tell better stories for yourself and your players as you dungeon master sessions of D&D, Dungeons & Dragons. We'd like to give you some quick announcements. We actually have one before the show, and then after the show, if you want to stick around, we have some more announcements then as well. But first, let's talk about this. Tired of being alone? Are you tired of not having any of your players understand you? Are you tired of never truly belonging? Well, you're in luck. All you need to do is join the Guild. The Guild is a unique and exclusive experience that is only open to Dungeon Masters. It is a full community focused on helping ease your DMing burdens. Want to meet other DMs? Join the Guild. Want to discuss your homebrew ideas with people who would appreciate it instead of just telling your cat? Join the Guild. Want to find a place where all your wildest dreams will come true? Join the Guild. Go to monsters.rent/guild and sign up today for free. Wait, that can't be right. Chuck, can you check this again? Is this supposed to be... What? Oh, they're serious? It's free? Oh, okay. All right. Yes, go to monsters.rent/guild and sign up today for free, even though they are crazy for giving this away for free. Common side effects may include burping, sneezing, laughing, breathing, hearing, listening, tasting, farting, critting, sarcasm, and in extreme cases, explosive diarrhea. Awesome. With that out of the way, we can get into today's show.
Your party is in a small town at the edge of Baron Garskill's dispiriting territory. You've been planning to have the players directed, via various interactions with oppressed and fearful townsfolk, to face the despotic Baron. However, just as you're about to point them towards their long-awaited quest, the warrior speaks up. He says, I want to find a powerful weapon. Is it okay if I spend all day searching for it? Would it be okay if I roll to find info from the town? You sit there, unsure about how to proceed. Sure, the rest of the players seemed ready to pursue the main quest that you'd planned in depth, but now you have a stubborn warrior. And to be fair, his weapon could do with a little upgrading. So how do you proceed? Do you just reward him with an easy weapon? Maybe derail the party on a lengthy side quest? Or do you do something else entirely? What would you like to do? Welcome back to How to Be a Better DM. I'm one of your hosts, Tanner Weyland, and together you and I will learn how to tell better stories as we DM sessions of Dungeons & Dragons 5e. Once again, today is a solo podcast. Justin's actually up in Idaho visiting his in-laws, so hopefully he's having the best of times there. Either way, I hope that you guys had a great Easter or Ramadan or Passover or just a great weekend in general. I certainly did. Went over to my parents' house, had a lot of delicious food. Loved it to pieces. Anyway, but getting past all that, I just really want to, I want to say that I'm very excited for the topic today. And I actually kind of based the what if scenario at the start on that topic of kind of a stubborn player. But to answer what I would do in the situation that I posed, specifically a player kind of wanting to derail the party on a side quest when the main quest is kind of right in front of them. Honestly, what I would do, and the situation I posed was a warrior, maybe a min-maxer, who felt like their weapon was subpar. I think that it's fairly likely that they might feel like, hey, maybe you as a DM aren't going to throw them a bone, maybe, and so they feel like they need to find that bone for themselves of a better weapon. I think people would try a few different ways to approach this, but for me, I'd keep it simple. I would be like, hey, this thing that you're looking for, this weapon or whatever it is, the main baddie, she actually has it, so guess we gotta go find them. And the weapon or the missing person that you're looking for, they should be there according to public rumors. So great. That's one nice way to solve it. But I'd be interested in seeing if you guys have any different ideas. If you do, or if you just want to connect with us, we have an Instagram. It's at How to Be a Better DM. So let us know. Also, if you'd like to play D&D with us, sign up for our newsletter and get access to monthly signups for a session with me or Justin or someone else. Either way, the last one was a real blast. So I'll have the link in the description for you to subscribe for the newsletter. Now, to get into the main topic. So when I was talking about this with Justin, I kind of wanted to preface this, and this could honestly be broken into many episodes, but I'm just going to kind of keep it high-level thoughts here. But how do you deal with that quote-unquote one player? Now, when I say that, probably something different comes to mind for each of you. For example, I just mentioned a min-maxer. I think that's one that I've had personal experience with, where it's like, hey, there's nothing wrong with one of your players min-maxing and making their person very powerful, but it's hard as a DM because you feel like, hey, they're going to keep just crushing my monsters, and if I make my monsters or enemies stronger, everybody else who isn't as interested in just kind of sweeping the floor, they're going to fall behind, simply put. So there's that type. There's that kind of player that has a hero complex, and essentially every role play or main plot point, they kind of see themselves as the main person, like the leader, the main force of goodness or motivation. And that can be very dispiriting when you're trying to be like, hey, you're a good role player. Step back, please let someone else take the role. Or maybe they're that one player who just doesn't really participate as much. They don't have as much imagination. Whatever it is, there's a lot of different ones, right? Like backseat drivers in the DM sense. There's the angry player or the sore loser. All these players, while each of them could have their own podcast episode about them, I kind of want to talk high level about what makes somebody that one player, quote unquote, the kind of player that you almost dread playing with. I think that many of us would either say like, oh, it's their personality or something else, but I think we all have friends or family who, their personality isn't great, but we get along with them and we don't dread being with them, to some extent. I think some people do, but I was thinking about it, and it kind of struck me that a lot of times dread interacting with someone comes from the feeling that that it won't get better, that despite your frustrations, you're going to have to deal with the same problems over and over and over again. In the end, I would say that communication and understanding is the sickness that leads sickness, quote unquote, right? It's not an actual sickness, but essentially it's the problem that makes someone that one player. Because otherwise, if you could communicate your issues with them, and if they could communicate their expectations to you, that maybe, you're passing by like ships in the night and you're not actually hitting the mark, either them as a player or you as a DM. If you could communicate that, and if they could understand and you could both work on it, then they wouldn't be that one player that you dread to play with. No, it'd be Derek or Casey or whatever their name is, right? They'd just be one of the crew with their own kind of quirks. It's typically when someone has a real issue and it's so dominating and you feel like it's so unfixable, or at least that you don't know how to address it, that's when it becomes a problem. And so with that being said, what are the solutions, right? Probably many and varied. I'm not here to give every solution, but I had a couple thoughts that I think would help anybody, at least if you're not doing these already. And if you are, you can probably do them a little bit better. I know that I certainly can. So first, I would say conflict resolution. Some DMs are very hesitant to engage with conflict. They're conflict averse is one way to say it. And that's, probably them trying to be nice. And also D&D is supposed to be a nice, fun situation. You don't think about it the same way you would at a job where it's like, hey, if I have an issue with my colleague, I'm going to bring it up in a professional way. No, we think, hey, these are my friends. We're, playing D&D. No biggie. If I have an issue, I won't make a big deal out of it. And I think that you're selling yourself short by not realizing that conflict resolution skills are super important in every interpersonal relationship, right? Not just work, not just school or anything else like that. Even a fun game-like setting, you can have in place certain structures or certain habits of conflict resolution that can really benefit your game. For example, you could make a time either mid-session, right? Like, for example, it could be when your players are resting, or when they're at a tavern or anything like that, where you can check in and be like, hey, so first off, how do we feel like the session's going? Second off, what could I be doing better? Is anybody frustrated with how the journey's going? Questions like that, right? And then if you air out these grievances, I would like to believe that many people would be able to, even a player that is hard to deal with, they're not going to be oblivious to that, right? And especially if it's out in the open, you as a DM, if you notice that that's happening, you can kind of point it out, right? Whereas if you just point it out and there hasn't been a space for people to actually mention their frustrations, then it might just come across as you, as a controlling DM, just foisting something onto them, right? So yeah, that's an example of how you can kind of get that constructive criticism flowing, so to speak. Another one, and probably the last one that I'm going to mention, is goal setting. And this, once again, doesn't kind of seem to make sense in a D&D standpoint, more like a professional or a, what's the word? Like a personal development kind of standpoint. But I think that goals are super important for a campaign, or even one shot, right? If someone is sitting down at the table to play with you, or they're online, there's a reason why they made time. It's because they're expecting something out of the session. And so I don't think that asking that of the stubborn player or of every other player could hurt at all. Because of this, I think that a lot of the issues of communication with players that are hard to deal with, a lot of the issues are not their expectations. Because, I mean, someone wanting to min-max, someone wanting to have a cool side quest, or someone wanting to have meaningful roleplay that revolves around them, those aren't bad things in and of themselves. Those are things that if they become too dominant, or if they roll out and kind of blow away other more timid players so that they have less of a good experience, that's when it's an issue. When it derails your plans in a significant way, that's an issue, right? But if they don't actually have to come in conflict with that, specifically by stating what they're looking forward to, and then also everyone else, so that you can kind of fit every jigsaw piece together so that no one player's getting their way at a detriment to someone else, right? If you can figure that out, you're golden. Great. And so that's why I would say make sure to do goals. If it's the start of a longer term campaign or adventure, then what I would do is do it at the start, right? Have their player character goals, and then them as a person and a player goal, right? What are they looking for? And I think if you take the time for them to state that, and then also follow up occasionally, kind of going back to my first suggestion about the conflict resolution sessions, or sections of your games. I think if you take the time to check in and have them name their goals in a specific way versus just being like, hey, are you having a good time? But being like, hey, what are you looking forward to? Are we hitting that? Have you realized that you want to pursue anything else? Then I think that helps them feel heard. And it also can give you a chance to actively pursue their goals. Because in the end, if you're meeting their goals, you're a successful DM. If you're providing them a good time, a good situation at the table, then I think you're doing well. In any case, if you have a player, a difficult player, don't think of them as someone to be fixed. Instead, think of your processes as something to be fixed, right? Because they're a person. And honestly, they probably came to the table knowing that they aren't the best at making friends or communicating with people. And that's okay, right? And at least they're trying, first and foremost. And I think that it's up to us as people who notice issues to bring them up, but bring them up in a way that will actively benefit the party. And so my final piece of advice is to take all that in mind, make a plan for how you can reach out and work with players that are difficult and have issues with communicating, and then get together with your friends and roll initiative.
Thank you for listening to today's show. We really appreciate your support and your patronage. We have a few more announcements to go over. First,
did you ever fall in love with the library as a kid? It was a place where you could experience 1,000 stories without having to buy 1,000 books. That is what Monsters.rent can do for your D&D campaign. You can rent and swap out as many quality miniature monsters and creatures for your D&D party as you could ever want, without having to buy them. You can rescue villagers from a kobold camp, or lead your party through the fighting forest, or many more adventures. We're coming out with new bundles all the time. Just sign up for our subscription to get access to your own personal library of minis. Go to monsters.rent to find out more. That's the website. Monsters, with an S, .rent. Get your library pass to a world of minis today.
we also wanted to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by Stardust and Dragons. I'm going to let one of the cast of Stardust and Dragons, Christian Hatcher, and his crew tell you a little bit more about it.
This August, a new adventure podcast is coming to a platform near you, filled with action.
Shoot one of the two of them. We can't keep taking hits like that.
Drama.
Everything that she's been doing, everything she's going to do, finally sets in.
And Stardust.
Help! Help! Someone, please!
Find out more about this epic odyssey at stardustanddragons.com, where adventure awaits in the stars.
That's all the announcements we have today. Again, thank you so much for everything you do for us. You make this show possible. Like we said before, we'll be back next week with another great episode, and until then, let's go ahead and roll initiative.